I have nothing new to tell you. Google is not ready. Cable is not ready. USBI, they didn't check them first one. Yeah, that's why I'm going to push it. You could go up.
I spoke with her, she said they sending them to do that today.
Again, to look at the, you know they have to do, they say, but it makes no sense. Say the messenger has to go there and look at the entry. See, they have a letter there. So you all have to be mad. They're supposed to tell you when your stuff ready or not, you pay them. There again. All these things will be done in timely manner. Didn't ask them for that, they look probably never do it.
And they don't even have last year or something like that.
I mean, they do it. They do it, yes. Yeah, the machine is model for that company. But some of them is for other companies. Good. Did you ever use transformation? Wow. Oh, yeah. Got it?
The light, the regular light stuff will be bare on the bottom, and there's one. You really make sure
So the models are based on the product. Well, on the approach, basically. So you got 3 different models.
Yeah, 3 different models.
In your financials.
You could have up to 3 different models in your financials, correct? And it's based on a number of factors. It's not just the product. It's based on the contract boundary, how you price it, how future pricing. Do you have variation? We'll talk about it. It's a number of different factors. This is how we do factors.
But is there one determinant factor that you cannot use? Let's say the contract expands more than 12 months.
Yeah. Everyone's here. Well,
Let me get there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there's 3 models, right? So we have the general model, which is the default model for accounting research. This is it right here. And this general model has ignored discounting, it has ignored the adjustment of non-financial risk factors, it ignored adjustments to acquisition costs. So this is really a simplified model. It actually gets more complex than this, right? It also assumes only 4 years as opposed to 40 years. So, and there's a lot of items there. The general model applies to contracts. The modified model, applies to contracts with direct participating features and contracts with discretionary participating features. And the modification also applies to reinsurance contracts. So there's modification for those 3 methods. You can only use a direct participating feature model and discretionary participating feature model, which is called the variable fee approach. The variable fee approach, only if you also issue insurance contracts. Because these are not really insurance contracts. They're financial contracts, but you're allowed to use them if you're an insurance company. And you issue insurance contracts, which you do, so you can use them, right? If you're a bank and issuing some of these features, you probably wouldn't be allowed to use this. And reinsurance contracts follows a different model. We'll get to that one. And then you have the premium allocation approach. This is an optional, your choice. Simplified, truly is simplified, accounting model for short-term duration contract. So item number 1 is that it's for 12 months or less, and is subject to other factors. Let's look at those other factors, which comes up in like another hour from now. Okay, so I'll get there, okay? The other factors is the, jumping ahead, the other factors would be the contract, what do they call it? The boundaries of a contract. Your boundaries of a contract have to be 12 months or less. A boundary is basically that range on when you can reprice the contract. So in other words, if I sell you a policy for 12 months, and it's for health, can I reprice the contract 12 months from now? If the answer is yes, you qualify. But some contracts, although they're on a yearly basis, you can't reprice them because it requires new details. So maybe the health policy says, I can't force you to do another health exam. So therefore, it may not qualify for the PAA because your pricing is over the health exam that happens every 10 years. So if you price it based on the health exam of the individual, but that's good for 10 years, well, you may not qualify. The other issue too is that you don't qualify if you price into that duration period other factors into the future period. So I'm going to price you a car policy for $1,000. However, I really should be pricing you $1,200, but I'm going to price you $1,400 next year. So I'm going to expect to price something more in the future. Or I'm pricing you $1,000 because I really overpriced you last year by $200, and I'm going to reduce it. So you now then take in things in the past and in the future, and your contract duration is beyond the year. So you got to look at all those factors. Are you truly on an annual basis? The view is that most P&C would be. So most companies would be on a 1-year basis, and the PA would be acceptable. So it's considered a contract boundary. If your contract boundary is a year or less, you can use it. You can also use the PAA if you could prove that using the PAA would give you no difference to the general model. So, hey, if you price home policies for 2 years, and you don't expect to have any modification, any kind of variations here, you can still use PAA. Right? We have it for 18 months policies, but based on our history, actual claims, forecasted claims are pretty constant. The risk variation, the non-financial risk adjustment is very low because we have so many policies. You could probably justify it would be acceptable. Because the standard does say that you can do that. If you could show that the contract over a year has the same effect as the PAA, you can use it. But again, that would be a hurdle to get past your auditors to prove that would be acceptable. So the scope and exceptions. So you apply the general model to all contracts, for insurance contracts, reinsurance contracts, and investment contracts. So 17 applies. So what is not applied in IFRS 17? What is scoped out? So warranties are not within scope of 17. You don't issue warranty contracts, insurance contracts of warranties or anything like, I'll sell you a 5-year policy on your refrigerator. If your refrigerator breaks, or I'll sell you a 10-year warranty on a car. You don't sell any of those, right? If you did, you have to do 15. The next one is employee assets and liabilities, employee benefit plans. Do you have any, you're not covering now any kind of benefit plans or defined health plans, post-retirement plans
We have a defined benefit plan.
within your organization for your employees.
Yes.
You fall under IS 19, not under 17. So you use the 19. You don't make any changes to what you're doing. And there has been changes to 19 about curtailment and settlements and OCI adjustments and what was your OCI? There was adjustments this year that were done a couple of years ago that affect on settlement curtailments that you need to be aware of. Contractual rights on contractual obligations contingent on future use. You probably have no right of use assets, license fee, royalty, variable, contingent lease payments, business combinations. They haven't done any business combinations. I haven't seen any companies with these in the insurance business, that is. Non-insurance companies have license and royalties and variable payments because they fall under 15 revenue, falls under leases, it falls under tangible asset. Probably not going to apply to your business. Residual value guarantees by a manufacturer dealer. You don't insure the guarantee value of a residual asset, a residual value of a car after 5 years. That would fall under 16. It would fall under lease. Again, doesn't apply. Financial guarantees. If you have financial guarantees between your parents or sister companies or associate companies, you might cross-guarantee the company. If you did, you have a choice whether to use 17 or 9. Again, it's very rare to see it, but you could cross-guarantee. So, you got a liability, the discount rate's 5%, but then your sister company gives you a guarantee and your liability just drops by 1%. So 1% is the asset and liability between the two parties. Contingent consideration payable on a business combination, if you don't have a business combination, and insurance contracts in which the entity is the policyholder. So you can't self-insure, right? You can't self-insure yourself and use IFRS 17. Do you give the same employee benefit? Do you give the same insurance policies to your employees?
Yeah.
So it's a related party transaction. Right? So that would be a related party transaction. So you have to give that disclosure. Where it becomes a bit tricky is that if you're in the health coverage, do you give the same benefit to your employees? Yes, you probably do. So is it an insurance policy? No. You're just covering your own costs. So you probably want to carve that out. That wouldn't probably be part of 17. Because if you provide health and dental insurance, but you also give the same coverage to your employees from the same plan, you're self-insured. So whenever you self-insure, you can't use 17. So you have to carve that out. Again, it's usually immaterial, but you just want to carve it out. And it is a related party transaction. So you have to give a disclosure on that. So give consideration to the related party transaction with your employees. So that would be, and then find an insurance contract. So it gives us similar guidance to IFRS 4. It defines insurance contracts as a contract under which one party, you the issuer, accepts significant insurance risk from another party, policyholder, who you issue it to, by agreeing to compensate the policyholder for a specific uncertain future event insured event, adversely affects the policyholder. And you assess it on a contract by contract basis. So you assess each individual contract to see if it qualifies. So let's just dig into each one of those words. So each word in that definition we have to explore and see what does it mean. So the first one is what is a contract, what is insurance risk, whether insurance risk is significant, and what is meant by a specific uncertain future event, and whether the insured event adversely affects the policyholder. So we have to dissect all 5 of those. What do each one of those mean? Okay. Agreement. A contract is an agreement between 2 or more parties that creates enforceable right and obligation. It's a contract as a matter of law. It can be written or implied. Contractual terms include all terms in the contract, explicit and implicit, but an entity shall disregard items that have no commercial substance. What does all that mean? You might have a contract with a party simply because you have a customary process of always renewal. You might have some contracts that just renew every year, and you don't issue a notice. The policyholders keep sending you cash. So that's still a contract. It could be any form, oral, verbal, written, and it's basically based on the laws of the country. So the laws in your country that require written contracts, require verbal. So a contract is any arrangement. The key thing here is anything that you may do that's not even in the contract is considered part of the contract. What we call constructive obligations and constructive liabilities. So the contract may not require you to do something, but if you have a past practice of always doing that, then you would deem it to be part of the contract. So if you have a past practice of doing something, then you would deem it to be part of your calculations. So it could be implied or implicit. But anything in the contract that has no commercial substance is ignored. You know that small print? All those T's and C's the lawyers put in and all that stuff, it's probably ignored in your calculations because it's all more non-commercial substance that, if you break a law, if it's done criminal activity, you kind of ignore all that stuff. It really has no impact in the accounting. So you only look at the substantive. That's called protective items and substantive. You only look at the substantive part of your contracts and use that in your computation and in your justification, which one we use. I read an interesting article on the side note about one contract, I think it was in the US, that if you read the whole contract, it got to the bottom and said, write into the company will give you a prize of $1,000 or something. Did you hear about that one?
What was it?
It was some insurance company in the US issued policies, and they said no one reads them. So they put in the contract, right at the bottom, if you read this piece, send us an email, we'll give you a $1,000 prize. And it took several months before someone read the contract, wrote in that prize. It was actually, this is true, it was actually, well, I read it on Google or something, but no one reads the contracts. So basically.
Unless there's a claim.
Yeah, I guess there's a claim, right? But this particular company, I think it was travel insurance or something. And they wanted to see who read it. And it took them like 3 months before someone actually claimed the prize. It was a substantial amount of money. Maybe it was 5,000 or 10 or something. But it was a substantial amount of money. And it took them 3 months or something before someone actually claimed the prize. You can probably Google that. Okay, what is insurance risk? Okay, insurance risk is anything other than financial risk and transfers from the holder of the contract to the insurer. So that's the definition. Okay. And then it says, what is financial risk? So anything other than financial risk is insurance risk. So financial risk is the risk of a possible change in one or more of a financial variable. So a financial variable would be interest rates, commodities, foreign exchange rates, credit, pricing, credit index, etc. That's a financial variable. Because interest rates drive exchange rates, also credit ratings on collections. That's your non-financial risk adjustment. This is right here. the non-financial risk adjustment. That's your insurance risk. Does that make sense? So therefore, insurance risk is therefore non-financial risk. Okay? It's whatever's not here. And therefore, insurance risk is the risk of possible future change in one or more of non-financial variables that are specific to the party of the contract. All to say that is not your financial cash flows. It's not that. It's the non-financial variables that are specific to you. Will my car get destroyed? Will my house burn? Will I die? Will I live and keep collecting annuity? That's what insurance risk is. So, do these contracts transfer insurance risk? I'll pay you $55 million to a policyholder in the event of a tornado damage to its retail premises in Arkansas. Yeah, it probably is. However, what if the retail premises is only worth $20 million? Maybe not. So it depends, right? If it covers, $55 million covers that premises, then it is. But if it exceeds the coverage, then it's not. Well, I'll pay 2.5 to a policyholder if it snows in the Bahamas for 5 days in January and February. Right? The answer is no, unless it's specific to you. If it snows and I can't get out of here, and I can't fly out, and I incur a loss of that amount, then it is an insurance risk. It all depends. Generally, it's no, but it could be a yes if there's some event that could cause me to have loss. In Canada, they have some prize. Some companies have prizes that if it snows for 5 days, and you bought a ticket for a trip to Florida, or you bought a snowblower, we'll refund the money to you. So that would be insurance risk, because if it does snow for 5 days, then that company who sold you the snowblower or the trip to Florida will reimburse you the money. Remember golf games, you get a hole in one, you win a car? Those companies take insurance on that. Right? They take insurance because they're at risk of $100,000, so they buy insurance, and that is specific to them. Right? If it rains in the golf day and they've got to shut down and reimburse everyone their money, they have coverage. So it's got to be specific to you. So the answer to these questions are yes or no. It all depends. Right? So you provide inflation-linked annuity for the term life of a policyholder. Yeah. So the coverage there is how long someone will live. So life is what the coverage is. I guarantee the residual value of the car in the sum of $15,000. Is that insurance risk? No, because it's scoped out in IFRS 16. It's an exception to the standard. So it's scoped out, and you got to use IFRS 16. You provide, but it would be insurance risk. It'd be a form if it's specific to you. Your risk that car becomes obsolete. I don't know, whatever car you have has a defect to it. People don't want it to care anymore. Provides a 15-year bullet loan to an individual with principal amount being waived in the event of an individual death. In this case, the death is the life. Yeah, it is the life. So that is the insurance risk. So if you're a bank and you issue loans and you have debt benefits on those, then the debt benefit would be under IFRS 17. Again, you're not a bank. You do issue life. Do you issue those type of policies too? Life on, yeah, you probably do. You have policies on loans. Yeah, so you got to current those out because you have a loan, but then you issue a policy on it. So now you have two issues there. You have a financial contract and a insurance contract. You'll pay $25 million if contractor fails to complete construction of a facility in 30 days. Again, if you suffer $25 million of losses, it would be an insurance contract. But if you're going to suffer much less than that, yeah, not coverage. It all depends what kind of loss, because it's not specific to you. if you incur no loss. So most of these answers all depends. But in your case, I think it's pretty clear. Your P&C, your life, your medical, you know what your insurance contracts are.
So, financial institutions, non-insurance financial institutions that issue like credit life insurance, would they have to apply 17?
Yes,
The policies?
they would have to apply 17 on that life element. Yeah. But not on the financial contract. Financial contract would fall under 9. And the,
That's common.
okay. Okay. And the
Insurance
insurance,
area.
the insurance component is 17. Okay. So risk is significant if and only if an insured event could cause an insurer to pay significant extra benefits. Significant doesn't necessarily mean it's got to be 100 times or 1,000,000 times the multiple. If you could give a health policy for 1,000, but you may have to pay 1,100. You know, it's $100 more, but it's still significantly more to the base amount. It excludes scenarios that lack commercial substance. I don't know. What would be an example? Insuring for the aliens landing? Yeah. Yeah. If you gave a policy of an aliens landing, would that be insurance? What key is whether a occurrence event would entail significant additional amount payable or whether the event is unlikely to occur. So again, I don't think this changes anything in your life. The insurance policies you have today in IFRS 4 will be insurance policies under IFRS 17. So is there significant insurance risk in these examples? The policy requires payment of a single initial premium under which the insurer will pay a lump sum of 30 times the initial premium in the event the holder is dead over a 10-year period. The probability of the person dying is 28%. So the answer is yes, it's significant. It's a multiple of, let's say, 30 times. It's regardless of whether it's probable of only 1%. The second one is a whole of a life policy is issued for 80,000, fixed lump sum of 80,000 paid in the estate if the holder is dead. So again, yes, it's a significant payment. So these are significant insurance risks. The standards then explain what is an uncertain future event. At least one of the following is uncertain. So when you enter into a contract, you have one of these uncertain. One is the probability of the insured event occurring. What is the likelihood it's going to occur? Unknown. I think in all your cases, you don't know what the probabilities are. It's unknown. When the event will occur. So again, you don't know when the person will die, when the claim will be made, if it will be made, and how much you have to need to pay. So again, you don't know how much you will have to pay. In certain cases, life you do know. You know how much will be paid. You might have some maximums in the policy and the health. You know what the maximums are. Just a few examples. So IFRS 17, we give those as examples that they would qualify under IFRS 17. It has an adversely affect the holder. So we've spoken of this already. It means a contract requires a payment if a specific future event occurs, but do not require anything that adversely affect the policy holder. It's not an insurance contract. So they would be gambling contracts. Or credit-related guarantees requiring payment if that holder does not incur loss in the future. So it has no impact on the policy holder. They're gambling contracts. Other considerations. I put this slide in because I had one presentation where this may not impact you. Yeah, some courses I've taught, there's been people in the class who basically work with an insurance company that collects all the money almost like a co-op, a mutual fund, a mutual reinsurer, and then they pay it all back out. So they may not be insurance contracts, but you're for profit, right?
Yes.
you're for profit, you don't have any kind of division within your group as a co-op or a mutual insurer. Okay, because I put this slide in because some companies did. Because if you basically just collect all the money as a co-op and you pay it all back out, what do you do with the surplus? Well, you decrease your premiums, you increase the benefits. So therefore you have no equity. All of your CSM would be a zero. You have no income because you got to pay it all out. So if you did have a surplus, it basically goes on as a liability and you pay it out to the members in the future. So I just put that in here because sometimes there's always a person in class who has a co-op mutual insurer, and that's all that covers. Also self-insurance too. In self-insurance, when you insure your own employees, then there is no insurance contract because there's no agreement with another, or you're insuring yourself. So if an entity issues an insurance contract with parents, fellow subs, employees, there's no insurance contract in the consolidated financials. Or if the individual or separate financials are issued, there is an insurance contract. So you just want to keep aware of the self-insurance. And this is the, I think that piece is the co-ops. Yeah, it looks like an insurance contract, but you return all insurance risk back to the policy holder. So basically, I'll insure you, but whatever happens, I'm just going to charge you more next year, or return all the profits to you. So there's no insurance risk there to the entity, because it turns it all back to the policy holders for them to make good on it. Again, doesn't apply here, by the sounds of it. Separating components of a policy. An insurance contract may contain one or more components that would be within the scope of other IFRS. So a contract will contain an investment component, a service component, or both. If it contains an investment component, you get into the direct participating feature, that's fine. And if you have a cumulative value, it's also still an insurance contract because you have to you got to have that element in there for the insurance contract to exist. But if you have, do you have any kind of policies like in health or P&C that also has an investment side to it, that they make a payment and you carve out 90 cents in the dollar that goes into investment, 10 cents goes into, or you give them $100 and they give you $100 and $10, the interest pays off the policy in your return, except for direct participating feature, which will fall in the deed. But if you arrange an insurance contract with an investment component, you carve out the investment component, and the purpose of it is the investment component side. And it's obvious that you're really only covering medical or P&C that is really being done as a second view. The second one is the service component. The only company I run into that had a service component was a health and dental medical company. And what they provided was, health and dental. How material is it is the second question. And the third question will be auditors ever think about it. Right?
Basically, on Moda, we offer a 24-hour emergency road service. So if that, for certain packages we sell.
Okay.
So if that person breaks down in the night, they can call this person.
Yeah. Now you can, in that part, you can elect, I think you can elect for the roadside to go under 17. And the logic is that it gives you the same answer. So the example in IFRS 17 is roadside assistance, is exactly that one. It's actually the example in the book. And the logic is that under IFRS 15, if I sold you a roadside assistance for $120 a year, and you could have as many tows or assistance as you want, I probably recognize that revenue is what, $10 a month over 12 years, under 15. What would I do under IFRS 17? Same thing. Right? It's a one-year contract, so you probably do the same thing. So therefore, you can treat it the same way because it gives you the same answer.
Is the process of applying those separating components very complex?
Yeah, it could be if you don't know what the cost of it is. So if you sell a health and dental and you also provide an 800 number, what is that cost of bifurcating? When you sell the contract for $100, how much it relates to the 1-800 number? When you sell a policy, how much relates to the roadside assistance? You can reverse engineer it. You can see what the cost is.
So I think we can identify the cost.
Trying to do something now.
Yeah, 'cause